What's up, everyone? I hope you're doing well today. This is Raphael Garcia here for episode number 30 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. I thank you for joining in with me to listen to this episode as we have to talk about the PWI 500, which came out yesterday, I believe, maybe Wednesday, and also AEW All Out, which is tomorrow, Saturday. So we want to talk about that as well too. But before we do that, thank you for listening to our content. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel over there on MMAratings.net. You can check us out there to check out all of our written content and MMA coverage. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MMA Ratings Net, and also follow me at rgarcia_sports. And as always, please subscribe to this YouTube channel to listen to all of our content and stay up to date to everything we're creating here. Myself and Shawan do a weekly MMA podcast every Thursday, and I'm usually coming to you with this wrestling podcast on Fridays. So again, thank you for taking the time to check us out, and I appreciate you doing so. Feel free to share this content across your channels, and let us know what you think. You can hit us up at MMA Ratings Podcast as well. If you ever have feedback, like our YouTube videos, hit us with an email to tell us what you think, or leave a comment. And we always appreciate all the feedback we get, even the bad stuff that we have to block. So let's talk about some of the things we have going on this weekend. And I want to start with AEW All Out. And the reason is, and maybe it's just me, but I'm not that excited about this card. I'm not that excited about this event. And to be honest with you, like I said during last week's show, I actually wasn't intending on watching it live until the Kenny Omega match was changed from Jon Moxley to Pac. I've never been a big fan of Jon Moxley slash Dean Ambrose. I've said that plenty of times on the shows and all the content that I create. I'm just not a fan of his, and I'm not quite sold on Kenny Omega. It's just not my style of wrestling personalities. But that was an interesting match that they were trying to build to between the two. And I mean, I see why everyone is excited and why there was so much intrigue around them. But when Moxley went out with the Mercer in his elbow, I I actually didn't even see that. The only reason why I knew he was out is because I saw that Pac was included and added to the match. Now, if you know me and if you know my content and what I talk about when it comes to professional wrestling, I'm a big fan of Pac, and I've been a fan of his since he was Neville in NXT. Yeah, that was my first time being introduced to him, but I've become a fan of his over the year or so, or over the years, excuse me. But since he's left WWE, he's been booked in probably a way that no one else would have kind of predicted he would be able to book himself or push the onus to get that type of booking for himself after coming out of WWE. So I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of everything, nearly everything that he does. So when he was included in this match, it made me say, okay, you know what? Sign me up. I know enough about Kenny Omega to know that him and Pac can tear the house down. As I said last week, I think that I'm going to make an early prediction that this is AEW's match of the year, even though they've only had a couple of shows this year. If we had to make a decision on that, this is going to be AEW's match of the year. I don't think that they have any other pairing of performers that can top this moment. But if I watch All Out tomorrow, it'll be because of this match, nothing else. I looked at the card when I was putting together the agenda for tonight's show, and nothing stopped me and made me want to go say, you know what, I want to see that. Well, I will say the Cody versus Shawn Spears match is interesting to me. I was a fan of Ty Dillinger until him and Peyton Royce had made some gaffes on Twitter, but that's neither here nor there. I was a fan of the Perfect 10. I have liked the way that they've booked him so far in AEW. I mean, it's interesting because there are some people who are complaining, that this is the Perfect 10, that he's not some main event star, and that misconception is the total basis of this storyline, which I think works perfectly. I mean, look at some of the guys who have been nothing in one organization and been everything in the other. Hell, this event is probably going to be headlined by Chris Jericho and Adam Page. And when Jericho made the jump from WCW to WWE, he wasn't seen as a star until that countdown clock ended and he's out there with The Rock. So you can say that about just about anyone. I mean, Daniel Bryan was like people will probably have said that about him, and look at how he's rebranded himself. Look at the Miz. I mean, the Miz is someone who no one would have ever thought would be a star in professional wrestling, and he's probably one of the biggest stars in the industry right now. Probably one of the most consistent stars in the industry right now. So I think that the idea that the Shawn Spears match can't be interesting because it is him is a total mistake, and I'm looking forward to that match as well too. But back to Kenny Omega versus Pac, the ending of this is what I'm probably most intrigued about because there's no telling which way this match is going to go. On one hand, you have Omega, who they're clearly trying to book as a strong central character. They've done a good job of going back and forth with him because when everyone heard AEW initially being created and everyone thought, okay, great, the Young Bucks, Omega, and Cody are going to book themselves into powerful positions, and they've done a great job avoiding that so far. Yeah, they have Hangman in the main event fighting for the belt, but he was one that was already kind of tabbed as someone that would be a purchased person of interest. But they've done a great job of keeping everyone else, keeping the good old boy network, for lack of a better term, out of the main event picture. So there's that on one point, but they're trying to book him into a strong position, especially if they want to keep this match with Moxley hot. And that makes you raise some questions about how do they book this match with Pac and keep both guys strong? Because on one hand, Pac is no longer he's no longer carrying that Dream Gate title. So I'm sure he'd be more willing to do a job than not. And then you also have that this is his first match in AEW. And in my opinion, I think they can allow Pac to win and still keep this match and still keep Omega strong and still keep him hot for a Moxley feud in the very near future, especially going towards television. Now, we know if this was WWE, the way they would get to that would be to basically have AEW, basically have Moxley cost Omega the match, but we know that the leadership within AEW is not going to go around with that dusty type of finish, even though, it's Cody Rhodes at the helm here. So I do see a situation where we could have a great 25-minute, 30-minute match here with Pac still getting the victory and both guys looking strong. I think that if that was a situation, it really kind of shakes up a lot of what's going to happen at the top of this card. Because remember, it was originally supposed to be Pac and Page at Double or Nothing, which was going to set the stage for the title picture, but that ended because of Pac's inability to be in that event. And then they had that Adam Page versus Pac match overseas, where it ended in a DQ because Pac attacked the ref. So his inclusion in this show really makes it very interesting. I think that that's something that's going to be worth watching, paying very close attention to. So I even just kind of gave myself more reasons to watch this match because it is very intriguing to me. And I think that there's a lot riding on the line between these two. So as I mentioned, this match, along with the Cody versus Shawn Spears match, are really the only things that interest me on this card. I think that Cody is someone who's done great work for the business. I am actually going to be talking about the PWI 500 later on in the show, and he's probably one of the notable individuals I'm going to be looking out for to see what his ranking is, because he was in the top 10 last year. He's not in the top 10 this year, but I am kind of going to look forward to see what his ranking is. But Cody has done a fantastic job with this organization. He's done a fantastic job in the role that he's in. So I am pleased with what I'm seeing out of him. Spears, we don't. I think we're going to get something good here. I think Spears is going to show that people overlooking him has been a mistake and that he is going to play this part very well. So I'm very interested in this match. I think they've done a great job doing some storytelling here. I don't think the match ends here. I think it's probably going to end in something like a more violent fashion down the line. I mean, we already had Spears cracking Cody over the head with the steel chair, so there's that angle. But I think that this ends with something more dastardly and more heinous and more violent towards the end. And that brings me, and also I want to say I think that Shawn Spears goes over in this match. So that brings me to the third match that I wanted to talk about on All Out, and that's between Adam Page and Chris Jericho. And there's a lot of back and forth going on about who is going to win this match and come out as AEW's first champion. And in my opinion, it has to be Chris Jericho. The reason being is because no one gives a flying flip about Adam Page. He could walk into the room in my apartment right now and I would have no idea who the hell he is. And I'm saying that as someone who is a wrestling fan, someone I've watched every AEW event that they've had so far. All In, I watched Fighter Fest, I watched Double or Nothing, I watched Fight for I've watched every single one of them. And I'm not totally by being facetious that I wouldn't know who he is, but he isn't someone that would make a person want to watch wrestling or make them want to watch wrestling. Now, I'll give you an example because AEW's first show is in Washington D.C. where I live. I'm in this area here, and I'm going to the first event. And I have some friends who were wrestling fans and are no longer wrestling fans, but we've talked them into going to this event with us. We're getting a suite together, and we've tried to tell them who are some of the names on the show, and the only ones that they really recognize are Cody Rhodes because of his dad, and they recognize Chris Jericho. That's it. Those are the only two names that they recognize. So from a promotional standpoint, going into television, if this if this show is going to be broadcast in a way that is meant to capture the eyes of fans who turned away from WWE and haven't come back, you can't do that with Adam Page as your champion because he doesn't elicit any idea of excitement at this point in time. Can that change? It can totally change. It can totally change through strong booking and him taking that title off of Jericho in the future. But my opinion is right now he is not the man to put that belt on. He is not the man to have that belt around his waist right now. He just doesn't have the attention. He just doesn't have the cachet, and that's understandable. And that's understandable. But right this moment, you just can't put that belt on him. And that's not a shot at Page as a wrestler. I think he's okay. I mean, I'm not too impressed with what I've seen from him, but I understand why everyone is so hyped up about him. I get it. But I just do not think he's the one to walk into these first episodes of TV as a champion. Do you make him champion in the future? Heck yeah, you can do that. Hell, they can even do that title change on television within the first month or so. And I think that would be a big bump and a big help for him. But just right now, come Saturday, I don't think he should win that belt. I would be surprised if he did, but I think it would be a mistake putting that belt around his waist at this point in time. So let's talk about the next topic where this is the main event to me for tonight because, as I said, PWI 500, the 2019 edition came out this week. And as always, it's a major, major, major talking point in the industry. And I think it's a major talking point because everyone likes these types of rankings. Everyone likes these types of debates. And I think it's fun. I think it's a fun conversation to have. And as always, Pro Wrestling Illustrated puts this edition out around this time every year, and it's a situation that's it's written in kayfabe, like almost like it's real, but in reality, it clearly isn't. Like, because we know professional wrestling is a work. We know what it is. I mean, it's neither here nor there. But still, this is still some good content, and I love talking about it just because it's always such a debatable argument whenever it comes up. So before we jump into the numbers of where everyone's ranked, we always got to talk about the PWI 500, some of the rules behind it. So this is not a ranking from January to December. Instead, it's July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019, which is important because if we start talking about like the G1 Climax, I think if we look back at the G1 Climax, a lot of these rankings will be different, especially within the top 10. And I want to talk about that when we get to that point. But this is from June 30th, 2018 to July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. Win-loss record comes into play here, where we know wrestling is a work, and the win-loss record is predetermined. So that's neither here nor there. Technical ability, I think that's important. I think that's worth noting because they're kind of highlighting the individual's technical prowess in the ring. Influence on the sport. It's always interesting to me because it talks about how big someone is as an influencer within the sport, which I think is important because we talk about wrestling as entertainment, sports entertainment, and influence goes hand in hand with that entertainment portion. Then the last two are the two of the last three, success against highest grade competition and success against the most diverse competition. Again, it's a work. You can't really be going against the most diverse or highest grade competition and having success if you're not booked that way. And then the last parameter is activity. Basically, if someone's injured, they are not really on this list, or like the injury time takes away from their ability to be ranked toward the top of the PWI 500. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's start with the top 10. And I have to say, number one, doesn't surprise me, Seth Rollins. This is his second time coming in at number one. The last time he did so was back in 2015, and he has been consistently ranked near the top. And I mean, to be honest with this, you can't really argue with him being number one. I mean, the dude's been getting it done. He's been carrying the Raw brand since Brock Lesnar has not been around. He has 2 clean wins over Brock Lesnar this year. There isn't really any argument to that, in my opinion. Last year he was ranked number 5. This year he comes in at number 1. 2017 he was number 16. 2016 he was number 8. 2015 he was number 1. And in 2014 he was number 12. So that's probably like where you would say his real breakthrough came in, because before that he was in he only broke the top 20 twice in 2009, 2010. But Seth Rollins, I mean, I take my hat off to him. 2-time number 1 ranking in the PWI 500, well deserved. Number 2, Daniel Bryan, and this is another one that is good, falls right in line with me. This is his second time being number 1. Yes, because he was number 1 in 2014. So this is fantastic because if you look at it, I mean, he was not ranked in 2016 and 2017, obviously because of the injury that kept him out of action for 2 years. And in 2018, when he first came back, he came in at number 91. So he went from 91 to number 2. And that's, I mean, even that ranking of 91 isn't really indicative of Bryan's abilities, because we know who this guy is. We know he's probably the greatest wrestler in the United States right now today, maybe even in the world. And there really isn't too much of an argument around that. He was the WWE champion this year, dropped that title to Kofi Kingston, picked up the tag team titles as well. So this dude, like, he's the truth. When I wanted to be a professional wrestler, I wanted to learn from him. I did not have the opportunity to, or I was close enough to, but I didn't have the opportunity to. But I mean, Daniel Bryan is that dude, and coming in at number 2, he could easily have been number 1 this year. Number 3 is AJ Styles. Again, doesn't surprise me. Last year he was ranked in at number 2 behind Kenny Omega, either Kenny Omega or Okada was number 2 last year. I can't remember, but we'll get to that in a second. He had a strong year. He was champion during that time frame. He's back with the OC now. He picked up the US championship. So I mean, he's doing AJ Styles things. I think he's headed for a very interesting storyline. as the OC continues to grow and becomes more of a main event picture here. Let's see, he's been ranked number one time back in 2010. In 2018 he was number two, 2017 he was number two, 2016 he was number four, 2015 he was number four, 2014 he was number four. So he's the model of consistency no matter where he's wrestling, and I think that's very important. Other than that, he's been in the top 10 three other times. In 2010, as I mentioned, when he was number one. In 2005, when he was number seven. And in 2004, when he was ranked number eight. So this is like huge. This is just another part for the course. We can start calling him Mr. Consistency. Probably the biggest and most important ranking that we see this year is number four. And we have coming in at number four is Kofi motherfucking Kingston. I mean, what can you say about this guy? He becomes a WWE champion for the first time, first African-born champion in WWE history. As an African American, this guy, he looks like me, and he's holding the WWE championship. That is important to me. I think he has the most time as a WWE champion or tag team champion as a member of the New Day and multiple other teams. The New Day, in my opinion, is the best stable in professional wrestling today, because they're entertaining. I wish they could be a little bit more serious at times, but they've been entertaining and they've reformulated themselves and rebooked themselves and kind of characterized themselves in a way that has totally flew in the face of what that gimmick was originally supposed to be. And you know that this is a huge leap for Kingston, because look at some of his previous rankings. This man has never cracked the top 20. The highest he was before this was in 2013. He was ranked at number 20. 2009, which many people consider his best year, he was ranked at number 35. In 2018, he was ranked number 82. He was ranked at number 69 in 2017. 2016, he was ranked number 42. 2015, he was ranked 52. 2014, he was ranked 59. He had struggled to break through, and I mean, he's literally broken through the proverbial glass ceiling. He's the first, not only is he the first African-born champion in wrestling or in WWE history, he's the first African-born champion in wrestling history. I was there when it happened at WrestleMania. I have that video. I'm going to probably figure out how to keep that video for the rest of my life, just because it's that important to me. But yeah, there's nothing you can say negative about Kofi Kingston right now. Yeah, some people aren't too pleased with his title run. I think that there's some unconscious biases behind that as well too, because they don't say the same thing about some other individuals that have had quite boring title runs, but that's a whole nother story within itself. People can say that this would have never happened without Ali's injury. And while Ali was supposed to be booked in a very strong fashion, he wasn't supposed to be booked like this. This was the power of the people wanting to see Kofi finally get what he had earned through longevity with the WWE, and that's exactly what we got here. And I am definitely tipping my hat off to him, coming in at number 4 in the PWI 500. Then we have, coming in at number 5, we have Okada. So in 2018, he was number 2. And I mean, Okada is, he's the gold standard of Japanese wrestling. I'm actually watching a anime about Tiger Mask, and Okada is one of the characters in there, and I always get excited when I see him on screen, because it doesn't really look like him, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. But this guy is like the consistency. He's the model of consistency in professional wrestling. 2018, he was ranked number 3. 2017, he's ranked number 1. 2016, number 2. 2015, he was 27, and in 2014 and 2013, he was ranked number 4. So again, like I said, he's been around doing his thing. He's being consistent, and that's what's important to me, or important to this ranking. It is what it is. And he had that big match at WrestleMania weekend at the G1 Supercard, where he beat Jay White. He defeated Chris Jericho. So yeah, he had a pretty big year in beating Okada. He almost went undefeated in the G1 this year before dropping the finals to Kota Ibushi, who was the eventual winner. So, he's had another strong year. Seeing him coming in at number 5 doesn't surprise me. Johnny Gargano, Mr. Wrestling, is number 6, and he's had a pretty interesting year. I say the tail end of it has been has been controversial at best. And why I say that it's been controversial at best is because when I wonder what we saw here is that him and Adam Cole have been locked into a very uh, heated rivalry of sorts, and the way that it's been booked has been something. The way that it's been booked has made us wonder. Like they kind of booked themselves backwards in this situation, but we have Johnny Gargano, who is supposed to be at a career quote unquote crossroads at this point in time. But in this year, he saw himself become the NXT champion, saw himself become the North American champion. So he's been doing the damn thing down in NXT. And I don't want to talk too much about that. I just kind of distracted myself, but that's neither here nor there. Number 7 is Roman Reigns. He was number 7 last year. And I think what is best about Roman in this situation is that he's been able to stay outside of the title picture, but he remained relevant even after returning from his injury, or his cancer issues. So seeing him come back from that, seeing him be consistent and successful, it has been important. But I think I don't know if this ranking might be too high because again he wasn't the champion, but he will always remain relevant just because of the way he's booked within the WWE. Number 8, Kenny Omega, and he was number 1 last year. And, Kenny Omega is Kenny Omega. He's going to continue to do the thing. He beat Cody Rhodes and Kota Ibushi in a 3-way IWGP Heavyweight Championship match in October of last year. Defeated Ishii to retain the title in September. He beat Cody Rhodes to defend the belt again. I mean, he kept doing his thing. I remember when they also include the match against Pentagon Jr. in here. So I don't really have too much to say about Kenny Omega because, as I said earlier in the show, I've never really been that attracted to him. I don't think he's not my type of wrestler, but I get why people like him. So he comes in at number 8. Number 9, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I think that this is important because it's important to note that this was before the G1. He took a lot of losses in the G1. I think that if that wasn't counted in the PWI rankings, his spot would be a lot different. The same thing with number 10. We'll get to that in a second. But Tanahashi was number 31 in 2018. His highest ranking before this was number 3, and that was back in 2013. So let's see what he did this year. That was important. He defeated Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 13 to win his IWGP title for the 8th time. He set a modern record of 15 points in the G1 in the 2018 G1. Won that tournament by defeating Kota Ibushi. Defeated Okada in September. And then, yeah, I mean, that's really all that really stood out. Number 10, Will Ospreay. And the reason why I say it's important again about G1 is because had G1 been included, I think Ospreay would have been within the top 5. Dude was putting on a damn show in G1 this year. He was ranked number 12 last year, number 10 this year. If he keeps up what he's doing, doesn't get injured, he could easily be number 1 in 2020. Easily, if he's not number 1, he better be within the top 3. And that's if he doesn't get injured and if he doesn't sustain like any major losses or anything like that. But this dude's been the truth. You can put him in there with anyone, and he can deliver a hell of a show. So I definitely see him in there at number 10. So we're going to talk about some notables, some individuals who stood out to me for their rankings. We're not going to go through all 500, but we're definitely going to talk about some that stood out, and definitely a lot of those in the top 20. Let's see. Samoa Joe came in at number 11, excuse me. Jay White at number 12. Tommaso Ciampa at number 13. I think that's very high. Walter at 14. Cody Rhodes at 15. Jay Lethal, 16. Kota Ibushi, 17. Adam Cole, 18. Finn Balor, 19. Jon Moxley at 20. Ricochet, 21. Phoenix, 22. Jeff Cobb, 23. Miyahara at 24. Tetsuya Naito at 25. Velveteen Dream, 26. Braun Strowman, 27. And Pentagon Jr., 28. Let's see some other notables that stood out to me flipping through the book. Juice Robinson in there at 32, followed right behind Buddy Murphy at 33. Drew McIntyre at 36. I'm surprised he's not higher, just because I don't think that he hasn't been consistently booked at all. And I think that's a podcast topic by itself, because he deserves to be better booked than what he is right now. You thought at one point in time he would be the future of the WWE. It just hasn't panned out that way. Baron Corbin, 39. Kevin Owens, 40. Nick Aldis, 41. Adam Page, as I was just talking about, he's number 44. Dolph Ziggler, 46. Still hanging in there. Let's see. Rusev, 49. He'll probably drop next year because he hasn't been active at all. Robert Roode, 51. Ali, 55. Rey Mysterio, 53. Pete Dunne, 54. And Pete Dunne had a pretty spicy take on PWI 500 yesterday when it came out. He wasn't too pleased with just how I deal with it. I guess he wasn't pleased with his ranking. R-Truth, 56. He just keeps getting the job done. R-Truth is never going to go away. He's found the fountain of youth. Jeff Hardy, I don't know why the hell he's still on this list. Jordan Devlin, someone who I want to kind of get more into. At 60 something, I forgot what number he was. Big E, 72. I think he deserved to be higher. Pac, my boy, 66. I think that ranking needs to be a lot higher. Matt Riddle, 69. Cesaro, 74. Austin Theory, I think someone that's worth watching, keeping a close eye on. 80. Kushida, 77. Bandito, 81. Let's see. Chad Gable, 83. And yeah, I mean, I don't think Chad Gable gets the credit that he deserves, but that's neither here nor there. Oh, well, he doesn't get the opportunities that he deserves. Xavier Woods, 86. Bobby Fish, 93. And let's see. That's really it. Zack Ryder, 100. Zack Ryder, 100. Like, I wouldn't think, like, has he even been on TV that much? But, you know, like, it is what it is. These guys know more about wrestling than I do. But if you have $3, $4, I think it costs, purchase the PWI 500. It's you can buy it online. It's an interesting book. It's pretty hilarious to me to kind of go through and see where guys are ranked and compare that to where people will be ranked in the future, where they've been ranked in the past. I'll probably be writing about this week. But, you know, it is what it is. It's always an interesting talking point. Don't take it too seriously. Don't get into arguments about it. It's just a talking point that's worth a couple of minutes of your time to listen to and kind of go through and thumb through. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that. And with that, we're going to close out tonight's show. I'm trying to keep the shows around 30 minutes and not gotta drag on, because I know a lot of content stays out there for a long time and people be on their podcast for hours on end. I'm trying not to do that, trying to stay around 30 minutes, 45 minutes to give you some brevity and keep it moving. But have a safe holiday weekend. If you're going to party, take your time. You know, don't drink and drive. Don't drink too much. Be safe out there. What was I about to say? Just be safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy All Out tomorrow. Catch up on some professional wrestling. Listen to the Pro Wrestling or the MMA podcast on Thursdays on MMA Ratings Net. Excuse me, let me back up. Listen to the MMA Ratings podcast on Thursdays. Listen to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast on mostly Fridays on the MMA Ratings YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MMA Ratings Net. Follow me on Twitter at rgarcia_sports. Again, my name is Raphael Garcia. Today is August 30th, 2019, and this is episode 30 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you for taking the time to check out our content. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. And we hope, I believe, program note, I should have a podcast up on Thursday for MMA. Friday, I may not have a podcast. I will be back traveling from Boston for work, but maybe we'll get one up on Saturday. But either way, thank you for taking the time to listen to this content. Have a great night, everyone.